Bangladesh is famous for many wrong reasons: gross human rights violation, the plundering of its resources, erosion of democratic institutions and civil space are on the top of the list. The last parliamentary election held in December 2018 added another rotten feather to its crown. In the real sense, no election took place on December 13. Vote rigging is a pretty mild word to define what happened that day. The state machinery was put in use to rob the people of their voting rights. In connivance with the election officials and police, the ruling Army League stuffed ballot boxes across most voting centers in the country hours before polling began on December 13 morning. A Transparency International study revealed that electoral irregularities like stamping ballot papers the night before their polls and ballot stuffing by capturing votes on election day took place in 47 out of 50 constituencies surveyed. The study found other irregularities like the silence of law enforcers and administrative officials, casting fake votes, barring voters and polling agents from going to the polling stations, forcing voters to vote for a specific symbol. Transparency International said the election was partially participatory, non-competitive, questionable, and faulty. If the election were free and fair, then Sheikh Hasina would not have won in any way. Indian ex-diplomat and WARF fellow Pinak Ranjan said the same few months before the election. He said, there is a growing consensus that if elections are free and fair, the Army League will be reduced to an embarrassing minority in the next parliament. Many critics believe that the Sheikh Hasina government will manage the election. This is popularly called rigging in South Asia. We can notice that the people across the board knew it is going to be a managed election. Even a constituent party in the ruling Army League-led coalition Workers' Party President Rashid Khan Menon said, although I was elected in the election, I am testifying that the people could not cast their votes in that election. Another constituent party of Army League-led coalition, JSP, they said the election was tainted as the ballot boxes were secretly filled on the night before the election by over-enthusiastic administrative officers and police. Now, several questions surrounding this unprecedented rigging utilizing state machinery are surfacing. Did the administration officials indulge in rigging without any directive from high-ups? Indeed, a corresponding command came from the higher authority. Who exactly are they? Who issued the order? Who controlled the administration during the election? During the run-up to the election, the ruling party goons violently attacked the opposition party election candidates and their supporters to keep them away from electioneering. Interestingly, in many cases, the attacks by the ruling party workers took place in police presence. Between 2009 and 2018, at least 90,340 cases were filed against over 2.57 million leaders and workers of the opposition party. In the past decade, around 2,000 opposition leaders, workers, and dissenting voices were killed extrajudicially. In December, when the parties were campaigning for the election, over 12,000 opposition leaders and activists were arrested. Police arrested thousands of activists from the opposition coalition to work as polling agents during the election. Arrests of the polling agents were aimed to keep the opposition representatives away from the voting centers so that the ruling party activists could rig the election smoothly. After the announcement of the election schedule, the opposition activists and candidates have been attacked 289 times. 13,000 people were injured, 9 were killed, and 16 MP candidates were taken to the prison, and 50 candidates were seriously injured. The opposition could not run an election campaign for any constituency. The election was rigged in multiple layers. In the first phase of scrutiny, 141 nomination papers of the opposition were cancelled for petty reasons like not paying the credit card's annual renewal fee. However, after appeal, majority of the nomination paper declared valid. Yet, the nomination of 13 candidates of the opposition remained cancelled. So the alliance did not have any candidates in 13 constituencies. On the contrary, none of the ruling party nomination paper was cancelled. They were so right. Bureaucrats held secret meetings where they were planning for Awami League's win in the election. They created an environment so that no one could capture the proof of election fraud, like banning mobile phones and suspending the 3 and 4G network. No candidate of the opposition has been allowed to run an election campaign. Awami League hooligans attacked in the presence of the police in the election campaigns and processions. Awami League and police did not allow to put any banner or poster even. Even at the school gate in Dhaka, there was an opposition poster. The headmaster of the school was arrested by police and the court sent the teacher to jail without granting bail. The opposition could not print the election poster even. Either Awami League hooligans threatened not to publish the posters in the press, or the intelligence agency people snatched away the poster. Many Awami League leaders have given instruction to their workers throughout the country how the opposition voters, leaders and activists will be prevented from going to the polling station. An Awami League MP publicly threatened, which was published in the newspaper, that those not voters of the Awami League should not go to the polling station. And there is a video footage of that lecture. Police officers in uniform campaigned for candidates of ruling party. In total, 25,920 observers from 81 institutions of Bangladesh have been allowed to monitor the election. One might say that it's fairly observed, but this number was 1/8 of the 2001 election and less than 1/6 of 2008 election. Even fake election observers have been named as international observers who later said that they regret joining in this phony process. Nevertheless, 10 to 15% of over-enthusiastic voters went to the centers to vote, and most of them were not allowed to enter into the polling station. On the election day, after capturing the polling station, the ruling party cadres were standing in front of the polling station to form a fake queue, where the genuine voters were not allowed to stand on the phony queue. The queue was not progressing. The people standing in the queue always came back from inside of the polling center and stood in front of the queue again to create an illusion of voting process. When true voters protested against them, police, RAB, BJP and Awami League hooligans beat them up. In 6 constituencies, they used electronic voting machine, EVM. Moreover, EVM registered 51.41% votes, whereas EC says altogether 80% of voters exercised their franchise. The question remains why there is a difference between EVM and non-EVM centers. There was an arrangement that using the presiding officer's fingerprint, anyone can vote for 25% of voters of the centers on EVMs. We can take this 25% of vote was cast in favor of Awami League. Among the foreign media like BBC Bangla, Al Jazeera, Voice of America, Daily Telegraph, New York Times, Deutsche Welle, and few others carried related reports on vote rigging and helped expose the massive level of manipulation in the election. However, a small section of local media like New Age, Jugantor, Manav Jamin, Pratham Alo and Daily Star, which hinted in their self-censored reports that vote rigging had taken place in the election. During the run-up of the election, these 5 local magazines said that equal opportunity for parties was not granted for contestants participating in the election. The opposition had long been saying that an election held under the ruling party-led government would never be free, fair and all-inclusive. The opposition stuck to their demand for holding the election under a neutral caretaker government. Awami League-led government refused to accept the demand for which all contenders stayed away from 2014 general election. The opposition took part in the 11th general election on December 30, after the international community assured the election would be free and fair. After the election was massively manipulated in favor of the ruling party, the international community should come forward and clearly say that the election was not held in free and fair style, as they used the state machinery to rig the election in an unprecedented manner massively. And the current government is not legitimate. A massively rigged election is a global problem, not only a problem for Bangladesh. If a state becomes corrupt or its machinery starts breaking down, it affects all the members of international community, apart from troubling the lives of its own citizens. The political institution of the state of Bangladesh is rotting. The international community should sense its foul smell. It is not that late as yet. Please let us join hands and do our best to save this state from going to ruins. the majority of Bangladeshi helpless citizens are eagerly waiting for the help of all democracy-loving people of the world, which can perhaps let them escape a much bigger crisis.